and I might still be talking, and it was never a 10-minute call. It was maybe a 2 and 3 hour call. But Dotsie and I discussed many things. We talked about grandkids and kids and how much she loved and watched you guys and was very proud of each one of you. And then she spoke about her different areas of ministry. I know we talk about how she loved her time in Alpine, Texas, and the time when they helped develop the Wesley Foundation out there, and then the church in Estes Park, especially, she spoke about quite a bit. And so she loved her time in ministry. And part of that ministry, of course, was in helping others through counseling. And here again, she would share in the sense of God's love, God's love that she'd see in her interaction with others, and God's presence in the interaction with others. Finally, she and I would talk about Townsend history. Her mother was a Townsend and was my father's only sister. I learned more about Townsend history from her than from my own side of the family. So we discussed a myriad of things, but it always came back to this, and that was family, and how much she enjoyed family, and how much she appreciated family. It was interesting in the sense we lived in Fayetteville, Arkansas, and we lived in Starkville, Mississippi, and a couple other places, and she'd come to visit. And one time that I particularly remember, and my wife remembered as well, was we were at Mississippi State University, and Dotsie came to visit us in Starkville. And she turned to talk to my daughter. And it was what she did with a lot of folk, and that is her idea was to focus on you. She focused on you. And I can remember not too long ago when we were visiting her here in town, she'd say, sometimes she'd do that. In fact, I heard her use this phrase, wait a minute, let me finish doing this, because I want to focus on you. I want to hear what you have to say. And that was how she was. Her kindness was beyond measure. Her love was beyond measure. Her love of God was beyond measure. There are 2 verses that I'd like to share with you that the Lord gave to me this week as I was thinking about Dotsie and her life. In Proverbs chapter 31, it says, "Strength and dignity are her clothing, and she laughs at the time to come." She knew her time was coming to be with the Lord, and she was happy. She was going to miss her earthly family, but was looking forward to being with her heavenly family as well, and being with her God. And secondly, in the next verse, it says, "She opens her mouth with wisdom, and the teaching of kindness is on her tongue." And that's what Dotsie was. Her life was a life of kindness, of sharing and focusing on others. Now, Pastor, I will say one thing. She really had to struggle about joining your church, but what won her over was the beautiful music, guys. She told me that's Ross promised me, that if I came, there'd be beautiful music. So, Pastor, I hate to tell you.
It's not the first time.
But thank y'all so much for coming to sharing celebration of life of Dotsie with the family, and we ask God's blessing upon each of you. Thank you. Thank you, Pastor.
Thank you, John. I have no illusions about why people come here. It's the music is great. And I'm going to invite Ann to come up and speak.
Good morning. I'm shorter than Mr. Townsend. Good morning. My name is Ann Trost. Dotsie and I were friends. Dotsie was an amazing woman, full of insight, love, integrity, and all the things that matter in life. Great love of God, great love of family, and great love of neighbor. As luck would have it, coincidence, or the hand of God, Dotsie and I met as neighbors over 16 years ago. I was in my first semester of school at Texas University, and she lived in the apartment directly above mine at West Shore Colony Apartments on beautiful Lake Dunlap. On the day we met, I was babysitting my 7-year-old grandson, who asked if we could bake a cake. When I realized I was one egg short and not wanting to disappoint him, I remembered a woman had recently moved into the apartment above mine. I knocked on Dotsie's door to introduce myself and to ask if I could borrow an egg. She gave me more eggs than I needed, just in case, she said. I knew we would be friends, as well as kindred spirits. As I explained, I was in the process of completing a master's in clinical social work. As she explained, she was a retired clinical social worker who had been in private practice for many years. Coincidence? Maybe so, but I prefer to think Dotsie was a friend sent at just the right time when he knew I would be struggling with mental health terminologies and complicated theories that she was always willing to explain. Dotsie became a tutor and a great friend, an invaluable gift I will always cherish. Throughout the years, we remained friends, maintaining contact by phone after she moved to California, and upon her return to New Braunfels, we would go out to eat, take drives to see the countryside, and to see the bluebonnets in the spring, as well as an occasional shopping trip to CVS. Dotsie lived life with enthusiasm and embraced the day, despite the reality of adversities that came in her path. Her focus of positivity allowed her to rise above her physical limitations, and she simply embraced joy. Joy of spending time with those she loved, however frequent that could be. Dotsie's insightful grounding of reality helped her to have the gift of flexibility. It always felt so comforting to hear her say, "We will get together when we can, when the time is right." That was her way of offering acceptance and understanding of others' situations. When we would get together or just talk on the phone, we shared stories and challenges, comforting each other as friends do, and of course we shared our joys. A central recurring theme of Dotsie's joy over the years has been her stories of her family. She was so proud of you, her sons, and your families. Her face would simply light up with pride and joy as she talked about each of you, your dreams and your accomplishments. You all brought her such joy. I feel so very honored to have known Dotsie. She shared her insight as a fellow therapist, and she became a mentor, providing wisdom and reassurance regarding challenging issues mental health counselors sometimes experience. She offered insight as a mom, as a grandmother, and most of all, she gave friendship and her gift of listening. She gave her love and her enthusiasm for life. Throughout our relationship, I saw the light of Christ in Dotsie. I thank God for allowing me to be a part of her life. As we honor Dotsie, whom we all love, I pray we can each go forward carrying on her legacy, a life of grace, kindness, empathy towards others, and most of all, a love of God, family, and neighbor. It brings me great comfort, as I hope it does to you, to know that if we want or need to talk to her, we know she'll be listening. Thank you.
Thank you, Ann. And Chris and Jenny.
Hi guys, am I close enough to the mic? It's good. Yeah. A little bit closer. Okay. My name's Chris Felker, and this is my sister Jenny Noble, her oldest grandchildren. Dotsie would love to see us all here together. I remember her saying this at her grandfather Bruce's funeral. The circumstances are unfortunate, but it's so wonderful to have us all here. I'm 38 years old and feel blessed to have had a grandmother around so long into my adult life. Dotsie was such an interesting person to talk to. She did a great job of keeping up with the family. Every time I talked to her, I enjoyed getting an update from all my Felker cousins and Barnett cousins. I loved hearing her stories of growing up in Seguin, her time at SMU, and meeting my grandfather. She was an open book when it came to talking about her life and gave me good advice when I was young about not letting people take advantage of me. She was a free spirit, loved to travel, and I loved her retirement plan with her husband Clyde, who we called Popeye, of living 6 months of the year in San Diego and 6 months traveling, either staying with friends, family, or a Motel 6. I have fond memories as a teenager of celebrating 2 Christmases with them while they lived in Mission Beach. And she will always come to mind when I think of San Diego. Since my father was in the Air Force, we moved around a lot, and there were only brief periods of time where we lived close to her and Clyde. One was in the mid-90s when we lived in Seguin, and they had a house overlooking Lake Travis. It was a unique house over the hill overlooking the lake with a beautiful view. I have many fond memories of this place. And a couple years back, Jenny and I wanted to take her back there one more time to the house and to see the Methodist church they started in Lake Travis. She always did a great job of keeping up with me, and I loved our talks. I made sure I had at least an hour to talk before I called because she was a talker. I married my beautiful wife, Miranda, almost 2 years ago, and the day we got engaged, we called her to let her know. She, of course, was so happy for us, but let us know she would not be able to travel to Alaska if we decided to get married there. Miranda and I decided right then and there we would have a spring wedding in Texas so she could join. A couple weeks before my wedding, she called me and we had a 4 or 5 hour long conversation with her going into detail about what went wrong with all 3 of her marriages. It was close to 3 in the morning in Texas before we had finished talking. She was so open about her life, and I really admired that about her. It's hard to believe she's gone, and I will miss her dearly. I don't know anyone who was a better listener than she was, and I'm going to miss her phrases like, "You were doing things just right." It was an honor to have such a wonderful grandmother.
And my name is Jenny. I'm Dotsy's granddaughter. So, as many of you know, my grandmother was a woman who truly loved people. She was caring and kind, always willing to make time for others. She didn't need anything extravagant to be happy. She simply loved being with people. One of her favorite things was just going for a drive, talking, and spending time together. She loved watching the seasons change, seeing the wildflowers come out. She loved going to the beach and watching sunsets. I can still picture her sitting on the balcony of her porch in California every evening, watching the sundown go over the ocean. She found joy in the simple and beautiful moments of life. She deeply loved her family. She kept a scrapbook of my dad's life, documenting his accomplishments and the moments that mattered to him. She was a cheerleader, and she was that for so many of us. She was always encouraging, always ready to talk through a problem, and always willing to listen. She made people feel seen, heard, and loved. Her love extended far beyond her immediate family. She stayed connected with so many friends and just so many people in this room. She would just love to be here and see you all. She stayed connected with her nieces and nephews and made sure they remained a part of her life, especially during the years when her sister Anne developed Alzheimer's. She was so devoted to her sister and so thankful for the time they were able to spend together near the end of Anne's life. Gran also had a remarkable gift for preserving the history of her family. As a child, she traveled with her father back to his home in Kentucky and spent every other summer there with her extended family. She treasured the stories that she learned. She loved hearing about the lives of others, and she wanted those stories to be remembered. She even created a scrapbook to preserve the stories of the history of her family. She understood that people matter and their lives and memories are worth keeping alive. She was also one of the easiest people to talk to. So often she was one of the first people I wanted to call when something new was happening in my life or when I was trying to make a decision. She loved thinking through things with me, laying out options and offering her wisdom, love, and support. I always knew I could come to her and she would make time for me. At the end of her life, Gran was a fighter. She didn't want to go, but her body was telling her it was time. I'm thankful that she did not suffer for a long time, even though her last month, and especially the last few weeks, were very hard. But through it all, she continued to pour out love. Every word from her mouth was about how much she loved me and how much she loved all of us. She told me she was so sorry that she had to go, but that she knew I was going to be okay. Even at the very end, she was still thinking of others above herself. I think this is the legacy she leaves behind, a woman who spent her life loving and supporting the people around her, even in the midst of her own suffering. That kind of love is a reflection of the mercy and grace that God has shown to all of us. He's the one who loves us perfectly and wipes away every sin and every sorrow. Gran had put her faith in Jesus, and because of that, I am confident that she is with him now, fully healed, fully whole, and fully at peace. She is held in perfect love, and I believe the same love she poured out on all of us in this life is still part of the legacy she leaves behind. Grant, I love you so much. I'm so thankful for every minute that I got to spend with you. I will always cherish you and always love you, and I look forward to seeing you again one day in heaven.
I'm going to invite her sons to come up.
Good morning. I am Ross Felker, the oldest and the grayest brother. My brothers give me courage. Thank you, John, Ann, Chris, and Jenny, for your reflections and wonderful remembrances of Mom. Our mother lived the last 8 years of her life in New Braunfels. During that time, she stayed close with her family and extended family, developed new friendships, and maintained longtime friendships across the country and the world. Many of you are here or are watching online. Thank you. Her faith remained important to her, and her faith was strengthened and nurtured by members of this church and community. She experienced God's love and faith community with church members visiting her home, in assisted living with mobile communion, where she especially enjoyed singing traditional hymns. Our church choir, bell choir, Christmas carolers, and strings of green, and other musicians and church members performed and visited. When she switched her membership to this church from her home church of Seguin last fall, she developed close relationships with pastors Andrew, Julie, and Stephen. And many of this congregation and community showed your love and support through visits and ministry. Thank you so much. Mom, thank you for providing a loving, nurturing home for me and my brothers to grow up in. Thank you for demonstrating your faith and confidence in me. Your example and encouragement to work hard and follow my dreams and to live a life serving others and loving God.
Mom's absolute favorite beverage was Dr. Pepper, and she insisted it be served with no ice. Not because she particularly wanted to consume it at room temperature, but because she didn't want the ice to displace any volume, not a fraction of an ounce of that precious elixir. Whenever we had counter service at a place like McDonald's, she would always watch the server carefully. And if they didn't wait for the fizz to go down, the bubbles to subside, she'd ask them brightly, "Could you just fill it up, please, just a little more?" Well, I bring this up in order to draw an analogy to a much more important part of our mother's character, her ever-present drive to forge caring human connection. As with Dr. Pepper, Mom was always determined to have the fullest measure of mutual understanding and empathy in any interaction, whether with family, friends, acquaintances, or even strangers who to her were simply brand new friends unless and until proved otherwise. She seemed almost incapable of insincerity and was rarely satisfied with surface politeness, even when, on occasion, that determination leaned a bit against someone's boundaries. It was only ever because her heart was set upon more fully sharing the joy of mutual appreciation. Even Mom's small talk, if given half a chance, could veer into deep waters and the sharing of heartfelt confidences. Once she flew to visit us in Oregon, where we live, and at the Portland airport, I left her on the benches while I went to collect her luggage. No more than 5 minutes later, I returned to hear a woman sitting next to her saying something approximately like, "Only a few weeks after I got out of that second rehab, my best friend moved to Utah, and I felt so devastated." It took a few minutes to extricate Mom from the conversation, but as we left, the woman said, "Thank you for listening to me. It means so much." So as you've heard from all these testimonies, Mom was an energetic personality that we know, but as you've heard from these testimonies, her drive to engage others was about much more than her being an intensely sociable person. It had a higher purpose. That purpose was compassion. As a family counselor, she knew a lot about people's failings and struggles, and like all of us, she knew that life could bring times of sadness, disappointment. But that, in fact, indeed was why she was so keen to make sure everyone knew that they were okay and that things could be better in the future and that they had options to move ahead, to find joy again. That was the force animating her life. It had little to do with worldly achievements or money or status or living up to any of society's scripts for success. Her mission was a tenacious quest to give and receive understanding and support. She was an evangelist for connection, for affirmation. And in this way, Dorothy Beauchamp's life was a mirror and witness to the greatest connection and the fullest love and the ultimate assurance, that of the Creator. So we can only celebrate and give thanks for its gift, which we feel yet still and will carry with us forward.
My name is Wade. It means so much to me that you are all here today. Each of you had your own relationship with my mom, and while those connections were mutually beneficial, I want to thank each of you for enriching her life. As we've heard from these witnesses, I've so enjoyed. My mom had a remarkable gift for connection. She was warm and kind and genuinely interested in others. She communicated well and made people feel heard and comfortable. So I want to be brief, just 3 minutes, but wanted to share a recent story when I was witness to some of her unique qualities. Just a year ago, last February, my mom and I took a road trip to Alpine in West Texas. Mom loved road trips, and so do I. And she had lived there for 3 years with my dad in the 1960s, where my brother Ross had been born. And she had earned a master's degree at Sul Ross State University. And my dad, Bruce Felker, worked as a campus minister at the Wesley Foundation. And during that time, they were building a new building for the Wesley Foundation. So, Mom and I found that old building last February, and I was interested in taking pictures of a dedication plaque with my dad's name on it, and also the name of the local Methodist church pastor named Clyde Chestnut, who 16 years later would marry my mom in 1980. But that is another story. As my mom and I approached the building, a man about my age came out, and in line with her personality, she warmly greeted him, and within moments, they were happily talking away. Mom was inquisitive with him, as she was, and in turn, she explained why we were there and her history in Alpine. He shared with her that he had recently gone through open heart surgery and decided to pursue a music degree with the slower pace of life in Alpine. He opened up to her about some of the challenges he'd faced, and even though he was leaving the building and locking it up, he ended up spending about 30 minutes with us, showing us inside the old building. And my mom was able to point out original fixtures in the building, including a beautiful stained glass window original from the 60s. At the end of the tour, they shared a big hug, and he was misty-eyed, saying how glad he was for this unexpected meeting. Total stranger. Now, if I had been there alone, that meaningful moment probably never would have happened. But with my mom, people felt safe and comfortable opening up. She had an ability to turn even a brief interaction with a stranger into something more meaningful. She will be deeply missed, and I wanted even more time with her, though so grateful for her 87 incredible years and the wonderful times we did share. So now, hoping to carry her spirit forward, to keep those qualities of kindness and connection alive in my own life, as I imagine many of you will do also. So thank you again for being here today, for honoring her, and for celebrating her life. Like Dotsie would do, keep showing love to the people in your lives, keep reaching out, keep connecting in your own way. And thanks for knowing her and being here.
So many rich and powerful things were said. As we close this time out, let us say together the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. Well, brothers and sisters, will you stand for the reading of the gospel? This comes from the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 5, verses 14 through 16. You are the light of the world, a city on a hill that cannot be hid. No one, after lighting a lamp, puts it under a bushel basket, but on a lampstand. It gives light to all in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father in heaven. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. You may be seated. I have so enjoyed hearing more about Dotsie. As Ross said, I got to know her in this last several months, almost a year, I suppose. And it was one of those really cool parts about being a pastor. We had heard that she was interested in joining the church and that she liked the music, and that she was out in Green Senior Living, and so several of us went out there, and we had not a short visit. I'd be surprised to know, and it was wonderful. And when we left, Pastor Julie and I left, we both turned to each other and were just like, what a wonderful person. And we both talked about just the light that she had. She did. She made us feel so welcome in her space. And Methodist pastors and people in this world, she, of course, wanted to know about people that I knew about, and it turned out that she knew my parents and all these kinds of things. But part of it was just joy of that moment. And I loved that phrase, that she sought the fullest measure of empathy. I wrote that down. What an incredible incredible thing to do. But that idea of light seemed so just obvious. And then when I talked with Ross and Gail and asked them sort of what they thought, Ross himself used that same idea. And he said, she's always one of those people who makes an impression of light upon you. And then when Ann got up today, she said it as well. And I saw just nods and smiles when I said it just a few minutes ago. There's something about her that lit people up and places up and things up. And I don't want to pretend that I knew her as well as you do. But I have found it remarkable that in the several times that I got to see her, she was so warm and talkative that I got a pretty good sense of her. And I saw that real simple truth. She loved God and she loved people. That's just what she did. And I'm not sure it's a whole lot more complicated than that. To seek that compassion and that light. To have it be that when people encounter you, you bring light into their life. The other thing I thought a lot about when I would talk with her was that she did not seem, or she seemed forward-looking, I would say. She was looking forward. She was interested in joining. She was interested in what I was doing, interested in what things were happening. And though she was a lot of track behind her, she was looking forward. And I always saw that as just invested in that moment and what God was up to, what life there was. And I suspect that it's one of the reasons why I know many of you miss her dearly. Is that kind of light and energy and life she could bring into your encounters. When Stephen, who's our pastoral intern, was going out to visit her, I said, well, Stephen, block some time. She'll have a good conversation with you. And he saw the same thing. I didn't know that she loved Dr. Pepper, and I too get angry at the ice, and so I like the gentle way that she would try to maximize the Dr. Pepper. But that forward-looking light is a sort of, as I think was said, a drive towards compassion, a drive towards fullness, a drive to love God and to love people, a drive to be a light in this world. And I guess when it comes down to it, there are so many ways that there isn't a lot of light everywhere you look. And those people who dedicate themselves to lifting others, to being fully present, for being a light, well, you can see the quiet power in a life lived like that. What an incredible thing. We will all finish our race here. We will all face a moment where there's not as much ahead of us as there was behind us. But to face that knowing that you had lived and sought to love, and all the moments, encounters, and things of your life. Oh, that's a rich life. the kind of life that I think Christ calls us to, the kind of life he exemplified, a life lived for others. What's remarkable to me is that I guess we live sometimes in a world where it's sort of like, well, what can I do for me in my life and all of that? And yet it is people like Dorothy who show the real value in seeking that way of Christ. She is now with him and knows a fullness of life that we cannot comprehend. So I know it is hard. But I also imagine that the same thing that I got a glimpse of, and so many of you knew, that compassion, that affirmation, that love, has already impacted you, will continue to be a light in your life. Brothers and sisters, one of the things that we spoke a lot about was music. And we're going to sing a song that is about what God is up to. And so let us sing together, Hymn of Promise, and I'll let our musicians come forward. Please
You can
stand.
find the hymn in your hymnal at number 707. 707. It's called Hymn of Promise. And please stand as you are able to sing with us on this hymn. In the pod there is a flower, in the seed an apple tree, in cocoons a hidden promise, butterflies will soon be free. In the cold and snow of winter there's a spring that waits to be unrevealed until its season, something God alone can see. There's a song in every silence, seeking word and melody. There's a dawn in every darkness, bringing hope to you and me. From the past will come the future, what it holds a mystery, unrevealed until its season, something God alone can see. In our end is our beginning, in our time infinity. In our doubt there is believing, in our life eternity. In our death a resurrection, the last a victory, unrevealed until its season, something God alone can see.
Friends, there is a reception in the Wesley Hall, and just after the benediction, I'm going to invite the family to come with me there to shake hands and things like that. And please come. Hear the benediction. The light of God surrounds you, the love of God enfolds you, the power of God protects you, and the presence of God is with you. For wherever you are, God is. Amen.